Oh, really? You been paying attention to this crowd?
Haircut?
I literally do not believe people don't open. If he came out here and said,
pictures I can see, right?
The greater the less, the worse the problem. And on here, it would have been better off if he came out, yeah, because then they could have some.
I'm going to be
Fire alarm.
You see, it's very popular. We already moved. It's really something. It was okay.
I mean, every time it's like, where's this going?
Here's a driving.
what are you gonna shoot? Get your old work done?
That's my bag, but it's not their bag. It's because they're not used to having everything. Oh, right. Hey!
I thought you just got,
Yeah, you're back. It was a month. It's like there's a status status here. I'm not sure in March there. Even prosecution will say that
oh boy.
So
Enemy numerous here.
This guy, I mean, man, it was
Yeah, I am. You okay, bud? You're not taking the whole? Camera, I didn't see it. You're soft. I probably will. I saw it over from him.
It's a better seat than yeah. No more likely to be a mess.
Never heard of. Just a little back if you can. Good, thank you. Hey, the studio in my
position, just like it's punched up right back there. Yeah, like an empty studio wall. I'm sure that's not the digital thing. Because I'd like to see it.
It's very quiet. Nobody, basically, nobody's said anything.
Yeah.
One person,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
this can't be on digital.
just residency.
Sure, no, that can be digital? Alright. Yeah, it only helps me if I can see what they're taking the air, and I know when I can.
Hey, Rita, you mic okay?
Yeah, they might not be taking it.
Stop rubbing you.
No, it's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a silent.
Terry, can you put your microphone on? It's under the chair on a piece of tape.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like something like that. All right, thank you.
New guy. Well, it used to be that way that we went on camera. It's cold.
Make sure you wait. It's a long week.
More informative. And how's your shoulder? Feel great now. Okay, when I get out of the room, it's called
What, Z9?
I'm gonna stop.
I always I forget how.
But I guess.
I think it shuts off. Well, I thought you were just saying this was Politico's Super Bowl.
Oh, no, it is.
This guy is
But also,
switch over to control the screw to at 2 o'clock. And have option to roll with you. We'll help you out, guys. Listen to me. Direction. All he does is read the sports. That's it.
Hey, it's Jonathan.
So this is,
Yeah, yeah, Joe.
this one is listed.
Yeah, well, it's wrong. I mean, you're putting names in such a way. I'm supposed to be doing it. Yeah, but tell them it's for doing Polino stuff. The $1,000 agreement for the Polino.
Anybody want some? Check on that.
Yes, you need this. Thank you.
They did, I saw that, yes, that's right. And they're keeping the same manager. Love that story. That was a mistake. Yeah. I'm still heartbroken about Michael Morris. Heartbreaking. They would sing "Take On John." Yeah, they should bring it back just to help. Last briefing was Thanksgiving.
Time for one question. I'm sure they are.
Are those rules going up?
Hey, we're done with that. Time for one question. When's the president? The president should off.
That's our calendar.
Never helps. Yeah, I didn't. They really
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah, 26 or so.
27.
It is the monthly invoice.
He's told me
I hope you make
Not crazy. Maybe make a parent.
you can compare. First, second year of the presidency, because Robert did.
I use that with where take a picture of my house, make sure color temperature and everything.
Hey, CNN. CNN. Please.
David,
That's gonna be, it'll probably be in my shoulder.
using a side effect of this drug.
Should we lay it down?
Is that your second? Because it's gotta get on there and show.
You could lay it down, or relax and lay it down. Not sorry. Just be in my shoulder. Thank you. Just lay it down. Perfect. Sorry about that.
We're used to having before the meeting. Cafeteria.
Oh, that's Holly. She just took her wireless. Yeah, that's Holly. She took her wireless. November 27th. It's no staff. She took her
You guys, yeah, loud and clear.
because she put it back on. Yeah, she was put it during the briefing because. Holly, are you gonna put the other back on?
No, not for this hill. I don't know what I can sit back down. Yeah, I don't want to have my
So you, of course, because she took it off.
Yeah, there's, yeah.
When she puts it on it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all done, right?
They're seeing it somewhere.
Okay, where are you guys going?
Okay. No. Gotta choose the
So you
microphone.
start with Ken.
We'll talk to Doug.
Okay.
I've never heard that. Talk to John.
Lauren G.
I got it.
Oh my God.
I know, right? You don't have nothing else to do.
How big did you make that?
What? Scream if you go down.
David, good afternoon to you. I think it's probably pretty safe to say the first question that Sarah Sanders this afternoon will be about the delay in the Michael Flynn sentencing, pushed back until March. The judge giving him 90 days to continue his cooperation with prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia in a case that's related to his business dealings with Turkey. Kemal Tekin and Bijan Kian, the two associates of Michael Flynn that were indicted just recently, and it was because of Michael Flynn's cooperation with federal prosecutors that those indictments were handed down. So far, though, we do not seem to see any dots to connect back to President Trump or the issue of collusion with Russia to throw the election, even though President Trump tweeted this morning. It will be interesting to see what Michael Flynn has to say about collusion when he appears before Judge Emmett Sullivan. One of the other things that the White House will be asked about this afternoon is whether or not there will be a government shutdown at the end of the week. Yesterday we learned that there's a continuing resolution floating around Congress that may have at least the tacit approval of the White House. It calls for funding the government through the end of fiscal year 2019. That would be until the end of September of next year. It includes $1.6 billion for wall construction. The president, remember, was asking for $5 billion for wall construction, so that falls well short of that. But the White House is also looking for a legal opinion as to whether it can use money in the military construction appropriation to put toward funding the wall. So whether they're talking about a couple of billion or maybe plussing up to the 5 or 3.4 billion, we don't know at this point. But Sarah Sanders this morning on Fox News saying they believe they do have the legal authority to be able to do that. There's a lot of questions about Flynn, about the wall, and a lot of other things coming up in the first briefing of December. Okay. But Sarah Sanders this morning on Fox News saying they believe they do have the legal authority to be able to do that. So a lot of questions about Flynn, about the wall, and a lot of other things coming up in the first briefing of the team.
All right, John, thank you. Now let's bring in Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harris. She's outside the courtroom in Washington. Actually, you're in the bureau.
I'm just back. Yeah.
That was fast.
I'm all over the place today. Yes, I've run quickly.
And we appreciate it. I know that you have a lot of information. Tell us what you know.
Sure. Okay, so I was inside the court today, and I think some of the most dramatic moments came from the judge and the questions that he put to Mike Flynn as well as the special counsel. Judge Emmett Sullivan began by saying, I can't think of a day when the court has accepted a guilty plea when and it's not going to start today. On at least 3 separate occasions, Judge Sullivan he wanted to challenge the conditions of his FBI interview at the White House January 2017. Issues have been raised about the fact that Flynn was discouraged from having a lawyer, that he wasn't formally advised, that any false statements could be prosecuted. Flynn and his legal team were also asked whether they felt that there was entrapment in this particular case, and every time they said no. Now for the special counsel.
Right. Right, that's the question, given that both of the Michaels, as you referenced, are cooperating with federal investigators in a variety of cases, and yet only one, as you note, has been called a rat, if you will. The president wished Michael Flynn good luck. He said a lot of people are interested to see how this all unfolded, and of course it unfolded, as Ken is explaining here, in rather dramatic fashion with this unexpected delay now in the sentence. I would assume the first question that Sarah Sanders gets when she walks out here, presumably any second, as I'm checking the door behind me here, and hopefully. And so that is one of the stories that she will be asked about, of course, as it relates to the president's former national security advisor. There is a disparity between the way that he is talking about his former attorney and the way that he is talking about his former top official. Remember that Flynn is now the senior most administration aide to Donald Trump, who has been convicted now in this investigation related to the special counsel. And the big question is, when is this sentencing going to go down? There's 2 other stories that I think that Sarah Sanders will be asked about in this room. One of them relates to the possibility of a government shutdown and the likelihood that the president is going to back off big time on that $5 billion demand for border wall money. You heard the press secretary earlier today over on Fox News talk about that and seem to really give in a way that we have not heard publicly from administration officials. There's a lot of, as we know from our Hill team, back and forth over on Capitol Hill about what Democrats really will accept and what they can come to. So I imagine we may get some clarity on that. And then, of course, there's the dissolution of the Trump Foundation, the president's former charitable foundation that is now breaking up. I spoke with the Trump Organization lawyer earlier today who said, hey, we are happy to get this resolved, and we're the ones who wanted this in the first place, later suggesting that this is a politicized move by the New York Attorney General. So we're following all of those threats today.
guys. My apologies for the delay. We'll get to as many things as we can before we have to break for the President's event. Good afternoon. As you know, the World Economic Forum will take place in Davos, Switzerland from January 22nd through 25th. The President will attend as he did last year. Secretary of the Treasury, Steven Mnuchin, will lead the delegation. That will also include Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, Secretary of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, Small Business Administrator Linda McMahon, Advisor to the President Ivanka Trump, Senior Advisor to the President Jared Kushner, and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination Chris Liddell. On another note, the President is once again fulfilling a promise he made to the American people, and this morning the Acting Attorney General signed the final rule making clear that bump stocks are illegal because they fall within the definition of machine guns that are banned under federal firearms law. A 90-day period now begins, which persons in possession of bump stock type devices must turn those devices to an ATF field office or destroy them by March 21st. Instructions for proper destruction will be posted on ATF's website today. Lastly, Representative Martha McSally has been appointed to the U.S. Senate, and we congratulate her. She has been a strong partner in the House of Representatives, helping advance a number of the administration's priorities, including rebuilding our military and increased border security. The President applauds Governor Ducey for his swift and qualified selection, and he appreciates Senator John Kyle and thanks him for his service to the people of Arizona. And with that, I will take your questions. John?
Sir, a reaction to the delay in the Flynn sentencing and the rather unusual inquiry from Judge Sullivan this morning asking prosecutors if Flynn possibly committed treason?
The delay is something between General Flynn and the courts, and that's something for them to determine what that timeline looks like. In the meantime, we wish General Flynn well, and we'll continue to focus on doing what we do here every single day.
What about the inquiry as to whether he committed treason? Does the President see any reason why Flynn should be asked if he committed treason?
I'm not aware of anything that we would know of that would indicate that, certainly.
Senator, I was in the courthouse last hour when the Judge Emmett Sullivan basically said that he was disgusted by Michael Flynn's crimes. He said that he had disdain for Flynn. Flynn said that he knew that it was illegal to lie to the FBI, and he was ready to accept responsibility. This was all before agreeing to a delay in the sentencing. Given that, are you in a position now, or would you like to revisit your comments earlier today that the FBI ambushed Flynn here?
No. We still firmly believe, look, the things that may have taken place, again, that's for the judge to make that determination whether he engaged in something inappropriate. What we do know that was inappropriate by own self-admittance of James Comey is that the FBI broke standard protocol in the way that they came in and ambushed General Flynn, and in the way that they questioned him, and in the way that they encouraged him not to have White House counsel's office present. And we know that because James Comey told us that, and he said that the very reason that they did it was because the only reason that they did it, it was the Trump administration, and they thought they could get away with it. Those are facts, and certainly there may be other issues there, but that we don't have any reason to want to walk that back. Senator?
Very quickly about Michael Flynn. He has cooperated with the special counsel's office and met with him 19 times. Is there a particular reason why the President has not said that he is a rat, the way that he has said that Michael Cohen is a rat for cooperating with prosecutors?
Look, we know Michael Cohen to be a liar on a number of fronts, and the President's opinion is extremely clear on that front. I don't see any reason to go beyond that comment at this point.
Thanks, Sarah. Two questions for you on the government shutdown. First, can you clarify us the current White House position towards the continuing resolution that's floating up on the Hill? Is it a demand for $1.6 billion in border wall funding, or is it supporting a continuing resolution to take this matter up after the Christmas break?
You know, at this point, the Senate's thrown out a lot of ideas. We're disappointed in the fact that they've yet to actually vote on something and pass something. So when they do that, we'll make a determination on whether or not we're going to sign that. In the meantime, we're looking at every avenue available to us possible. The President's asked every one of his cabinet secretaries to look for funding that can be used to protect our borders and for the give the president the ability to fulfill his constitutional obligation to protect the American people by having a secure border. So we're looking at the other options. In the meantime, we'll see what the Senate does, and we'll let you know when we have an announcement on that front.
Second question.
Sorry, Sarah, I'm going to keep moving just because we're tight on time. Go ahead.
So following up on that, there's other sources that could potentially pay for the wall. Which agencies are you looking at? You've mentioned DOD.
As I said, we're looking at, the president's asked every agency to look and see if they have money that can be used for that purpose, and that's exactly what we're doing.
And if they can find that money, does that mean the president would accept a budget proposal that does not include any money to fund new border wall construction?
Once again, we want to see what the Senate can pass. They've thrown out a lot of ideas. They've yet to take a vote. Once they do that, we're disappointed in the process and their inability to put something forward. Once they make a decision and they put something on the table, we'll make a determination on whether or not we'll move forward on either a short-term or long-term funding bill. Sorry, John, I'm going to keep moving. Josh, go ahead.
Michael Flynn today tweeted that he did lie to the FBI to them repeatedly and that he was working for foreign government during the campaign. Does that concern the president? I mean, he seems to be concerned that Michael Cohen is a liar. Does he concern that one of his top aides lied to the FBI and was working for a foreign government?
Not when it comes to things that have anything to do with the president. The activities that he has said to, and again, we'll let the court make that determination, to have engaged in don't have anything to do with the president. Let's remember what the whole thing that this started is supposed to be about. And it's whether or not Russia influenced the election and whether or not the president had anything to do with it. We know that that Russia tried to create chaos within the election, but certainly not that they actually impacted it. The only reason that the president is the president is because he was a better candidate and beat Hillary Clinton. We also know that the president never colluded with Russia. So that's the whole reason that we have this, and we know those things to be false.
Is the president concerned that Michael Flynn lied to a representative of his own government and was working for another government during the campaign? Is that concern him or not?
Look, there's certainly concern, but that's something for the court to make that determination, and we'll let them do that.
Positive comments about him when he's pleaded to this.
Again, we're going to let the court play that out, and they'll make a determination on whether or not he engaged in something right or wrong.
Why is the president making positive comments about him, given these things that he's pled guilty to?
It's perfectly acceptable for the president to make a positive comment about somebody while we wait to see what the court's determination is. Blake.
Sarah, let me ask you about a tweet that the president sent out earlier today as he continues to vent frustration about the Federal Reserve. He said that he hopes the Fed reads the Wall Street Journal op-ed. A part of the op-ed, the Journal points out that U.S. growth might be slowing. The president's tariff battles have reduced investment. Housing and autos are down, and there's a few cracks showing as well in the credit markets. When the president talks about the Fed, is he just venting at this point, or is he genuinely worried that if there is a rate hike tomorrow, that the economy will slow down?
The president is stating his opinion, which he is perfectly within his right to do so. I think that is one of the reasons people like him, is because he does that and he does it regularly. He's been very clear about what his position is, while at the same time he understands that the Fed is an independent agency. That doesn't take away the president's right to state his opinion on a particular matter.
And let me ask you as it relates
Sorry,
to
I'm
the
going to keep moving. Francesca, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I just want to clarify one thing and then move back on to the border wall. But the clarification on Michael Flynn, you said it has nothing to do with the president, but one of the things that the judge brought up today was that it was so concerning to him because Michael Flynn lied inside the White House as the national security advisor to the president. So is the White House disputing at this point that Michael Flynn is a liar? Because that's also the reason that he was fired. He was fired for lying.
We're disputing that any actions he engaged in had nothing to do with the president. That just because maybe he did do those things, but that doesn't have anything to do with the president directly.
Okay, when it comes to the border wall, today on television, you mentioned that the president would be willing to accept $1.6 billion for the wall, the way that I understood it when you said it, and also that plays into a broader $25 billion bill over 10 years. Is that what the White House's current offer is to Capitol Hill, that it would accept?
Again, we are continuing to have constant and regular conversations with the Hill. I'm not going to negotiate here. We've laid out clearly what our parameters are with members of Congress. We want to know what they can pass. We want to know what they think they can actually get done. We've laid out what we'd like to see. In the meantime, we're looking at other areas where we can draw money from to make sure that the president can actually protect our border and protect American citizens.
With the deficit ballooning to over $1 trillion under this president, where are the additional
monies for this wall going to come from, and why is he asking the American taxpayer for them when he promised Mexico was going to pay?
Look, we're not asking American taxpayers for that. We are looking at existing funding through other agencies right now that we can draw on to do that in immediately. The president's been clear. The president has been clear that the USMCA deal would provide additional revenue through that deal that would show that Mexico is paying for the wall.
The Treasury, though, the trade benefits, if there are any, don't go to the Treasury.
He's saying that the revenue provided and the money that would be saved through the USMCA deal, we could pay for the wall 4 times over. And by doing that new trade deal, we have the opportunity to pay for the wall.
But trade benefits go to private citizens. They don't go to the United States Treasury.
He's talking about the general revenue that comes from that.
So you're going to tax...
No, we're not taxing. We're talking about additional revenue that wouldn't have existed without the president getting a new deal.
Have you done the math on that?
There have been a number of things that we've looked at in which we know we'll have additional revenue that comes in through the USMCA.
From the USMCA into the Treasury?
We think there will be more than that comes in. Jeff, go ahead.
Sarah, there was announced today that the president's charity is being dissolved. Does the president or anyone in his family have regrets about how that charity was handled?
That's something that I would refer you to the Trump organization. That's not something we could comment on here.
One other question, another topic.
Sorry,
can you just clarify, Sarah, real quick on something else? Whether the president has given any indications to Turkey that he would be willing to extradite the claret Flynn?
The only thing he said is that we would take a look at it. Nothing further at this point beyond that. Take a look at it, but nothing committal at all in that process, just that he would look into it.
Yeah, you've been saying a lot that things don't have anything to do with the president, and he's just giving his opinion, and he has a right to give his opinion. But does he not have a broader right, responsibility as far as, if his national security advisor is lying, should he not be speaking on behalf of the American people, not just himself, President Trump, man under investigation, but, in all these aspects? You're talking about saying that he is just speaking for himself and he's not been linked to collusion is the claim, and therefore, it doesn't matter what he says. And the same thing with the Fed, that his comments on the Fed have no bearing. He's just giving his opinion. What about him speaking to the American people?
I said he's the president of the United States, and he should, not only does he have the ability to give his opinion, he should give his opinion. That's why the people elected him, is because they trusted him to make decisions on policy matters. They want to know what his positions are on specific policies. He absolutely should state his opinion on not just that, but on every topic that comes up that he wants to engage on.
Well, a lot of people who are somehow involved in investigations feel the FBI is unfairly targeting them, but the president normally has a different role.
We know for a fact that the FBI engaged in an outrageous amount of political bias. The fact that anybody could deny that there was political bias within the FBI, particularly under James Comey's leadership, is frankly just laughable.
I guess I'm wondering, using terms like rat and things like that to talk about people who are cooperating witnesses with the FBI.
Or people who are dishonest and lying.
Does he not have a broader responsibility to preserve confidence in the rule of law for the American people?
Certainly, and that's why he has appointed new people to help do exactly that, whether it's Director Wray, a new Attorney General, somebody that can come in and be very transparent throughout this process. We'll take one last question. Justin, the President's defense about the kickoff.
Sure, I just wanted to go back to the shutdown, and you keep saying that you've asked agencies to look for more money, and so on this issue of reprogramming specifically, is your red line in these negotiations that you need Congress to reprogram money explicitly? So DHS or the Defense Department or whoever it might be the Congress say you can spend this money that we didn't spend on something else on wall construction, or are you saying that you think that you have the legal authority, and what are you, I guess, basing that legal authority on, since Nancy Pelosi said today that, in fact, that sort of authority doesn't exist?
I would never use Nancy Pelosi as my source for legal authority on probably anything, but I would use attorneys that work here at the White House and in agencies that that's their entire job, is determining whether or not something is legal, and we're looking to those individuals to find out those specific pots of money that can be used for that.
A bonus amount of money that is sort of reprogrammed by Congress won't be necessary for the president's signature on this budget bill.
We would like to see Congress pass an appropriations bill that fully funds our government and that allows the president to protect our border and provides substantial border security funding, both for the wall, for CBP, for ICE, all of DHS. But in the meantime, we're also looking at other avenues that would allow us to provide and do our constitutional authority and the president to be able to carry that out by protecting our border and protecting American citizens. I'd encourage you guys to tune in to the president's event. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
10-minute briefing, Sarah.
Do your job, Sarah.
Am I trying to hit your gang or no?
Hey, Caesar, somebody? Guys?
I'm sorry.
You hearing okay?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I do. Check, 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 check. Yes.
That was good. I just left the courthouse.
Oh, thank you. Your pie was
You know, Sarah Sanders pretty much added to the narrative that President Trump has been peddling since Michael